That's what I thought you said. Now let me offer this as a rebuttal.
Good morning, my good people, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. This is a cool teacher back with an intro video on equations. Now, the reason I'm doing an intro video on equations is because there's lots of terminology that I may use in these next upcoming videos about equations that you may not be familiar with. So if I would say make sure you subtract the coefficient from both sides and make sure you do something to the variable, if you don't know a variable, coefficient, and the sides that I'm talking about, you're going to be lost. Okay? Even though you're following along with me, you may be a little lost. And also, you might have vocabulary tests in school. And if you do have vocabulary tests, they might ask you what a variable is and a coefficient is. If you're in the equation portion, unit, chapter, whatever they call it. If you are in that section, you're going to need to know what that means if you're taking vocabulary tests. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover all of that in the intro. And then the next coming videos, that's when I'll start working out equations. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a simple equation. So let's go ahead and do x plus 5 equals 20. That looks pretty good. I'm getting better at writing on this little tablet. All right. So x plus 5 equals 20. Most of you are going to look at this and be like, oh, no, that's 15. And if you said that, that's great, because it is 15. But not all equations we're going to know how to solve like that off the top of our head. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is tell you what this is. Now, some of you may know what this is, some of you may not. This is what's called a variable. A variable is basically an unknown term or unknown number. We're trying to figure out what this is. Now, this is a pretty simple equation, so you guys were able to see what this, figure out what this was, kind of off the top of your head. But not all equations are going to be like that. Okay, so the variable is the unknown term. Next up, we have what's called a constant, and that's this right here. This is a constant. Seems like I spoke too soon. Oh no, this looks pretty straight. All right, so this is a constant. A constant is basically a standalone number. Okay, this number is by itself, nothing's with it. This is what's called a constant. What I want you guys to get used to is always include what's to the left. That sign that's to the left of that constant, that's going to describe that number. Okay, in this case, this is a positive 5. Now, I know you guys are probably like, no, it says plus 5. True, it does say plus 5, but plus and positive are going to be synonymous. Okay, especially when talking about equations. So this can say x plus 5 equals 20, or x and positive 5 equal 20. Means the same thing. Okay, so that's just something you're gonna have to get used to. All right, it'll just make it easier for you. So far we have a variable, we have a constant, and now I'm gonna go ahead and switch this up just a little bit. I'm going to turn it from a one-step equation to a two-step equation. Now, if you have never done equations before and you're like, what's a two-step equation? You're going to figure it out. Just give me some time. All right. So this is now 3x plus 5 equals 20. Okay. So with that being said, first and foremost, this is no longer 5. All right. So it's not 5 since I've added this here. But like I said, we'll get to that later. Now, running out of colors. I usually want to use light blue and red. So let's go ahead and throw the hot pink in here. Damn. Now this is what's going to be called a coefficient. Oh, fit. Ooh, sorry, fit. Oh, do I have enough space? Yes, I do. This is what's called a coefficient. This is a coefficient right here. Okay, and just since I'm using colors all over the place, let me make sure you know that this red goes to this x, which is the variable. All right, what a coefficient is a number that is right next to a variable. Okay, these two are right next to each other. There's nothing separating the two, as opposed to there being an operation in between this x and 5. So that's why this is a constant, because it's by itself. It's not right next to the variable. It's being separated by this plus or positive sign. Okay. And last but not least, what I want to go ahead and tell you about is the equal sign. And you're probably like, well, what's the equal sign for? Equal sign's an equal sign, right? Yes, it is. But in an equation, when you're trying to figure out an equation, an equal sign, I'm going to put a line down the middle because an equal sign is going to separate the left side and the right side of an equation. Okay? I'm going to say something when I'm solving equations, when I'm going to mention whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Now, sometimes there might be lots of terms on the left side, or there might be lots of terms on the right side. And when I say when they're all on the same side, I mean the same side of the equal sign. Okay? So, just so you guys know, coefficient is right next to a variable. A variable is going to be the letter that is the unknown term that we're trying to figure out, and the constant is the number by itself. And then the equal sign is going to separate the left side and also the right side. How am I running out of ink and a digital pen? Alright, cool. Now, so we have left side and right side for the equal sign and all of that. So this is just an intro to show you what all of these things mean. Okay? In the next coming videos, we're going to go ahead and solve a bunch so you guys understand how to do them. Alright? If there's any questions, make sure you like, comment with a question, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we're going to go ahead and get to all of that. Okay? It's the Cool Teacher. I'm out.